Hi, I'm Walter, and I'm the Dutch mentor, and welcome again to our Monday morning chat about leadership. And I'm welcoming today William Hirsch from New York City. He has a very interesting story to tell us. Again, I like to look at the world from different points of view. Although William has a history, background in HR, he is very passionate about a topic that I like to talk about is data analytics, but his specialty is talking about people data analytics as it related to HR. But the rest of the story is also very relevant and interesting. So without further ado, William, thank you for joining us today on our podcast. And look forward to getting to know a little bit more about you and about the work that you have been doing. So by all means, take it away and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Excellent. Thank you so much for having me, Walter. What a great opportunity this is. And I think my story is best told almost in reverse chronological order. So where I'm at today, which is I work at a company called Evolution Cloud Services. We are a software implementation and integration company centralized around the HR space. So always working with HR systems. Historically, it's been mostly Workday focused, but now as we're shifting gears and growing a little bit, we're starting to incorporate other systems that are major players in the space and that we think have severe growth opportunity. I'm a principal advisory consultant at Evolution Cloud Services. Hopefully soon enough, we'll be taking on the title of service lead of advisory services, where basically my role is to join projects that are either already underway or establish new projects offering advisory capabilities surrounding general management consulting, leadership consulting, but more centralized to human resources. That's my area of expertise. That's where my education stems from, is undergraduate management major, HR management minor, and then I earned an NYU degree, as you can see, it's somewhere behind me here, a master's in human capital analytics and technology. So that's kind of what's tying us here today, Walter, is the interest in data analytics has always been a prevalent point in my life. Always been someone who's been decent with math. So looking for the real world applications of using math in business to drive decision making and hopefully improve the organization as a whole. So tying together the mathematical components, the technical pieces, with the more functional, conceptual pieces of understanding HR, understanding how humans work together on in a team setting as well as in an organization, to again use data to our advantage and motivate us to be more data driven. HR is one of those last frontiers, if you will, to really unlock the secrets of using data to their advantage. So that's something that I really try to promote in my work and my everyday life.
Excellent. So very interesting. And the first thing that comes to mind to me is always, why is that important, right? Why not stick with the traditional model of posting a job description, hoping that the right person will apply, interview them in the traditional way, and hiring somebody? Why is it analytical pace so important to making sure that we have the right people in the right roles?
That's a really good question. I like to champion objectivity. So removing a little bit of subjectivity from topics. It's great to have personal opinions. It's excellent to have people who have industry organizational experience. But when we are more data motivated, there's an objectivity that comes to play in that we're following what the data speaks to, as opposed to just stronger opinions, the most senior person in the room. So I think that's a big component of why this work is super essential in HR, being a place that cares so deeply about the human elements of an organization. And not to mention the compliance piece of making sure we're following the rules, checking those boxes, having that data component to reflect on how we're doing and how we're tracking over time is critical for ensuring you're taking the right steps towards the right goals that you're setting out to complete as an organization.
And how is that in relation to people who are trying to climb the career ladder from an internal perspective versus an external perspective?
Specifically in people analytics?
Yes.
Yeah, so it is a newer area. Those who have been early to the game will say it's been around for a few decades. But I would say over just the last couple of years, maybe 5 to 10, it's really taken a footing in organizations. You'll see people analytics positions, data scientist roles that are actually part of the HR core team, springing out, from what were smaller functions of HR. So it's this real elemental shift of being a core HR, hiring and firing, compliance-oriented person to then actually starting to use data in your everyday work to then drive those efficiencies. You mentioned job postings, job descriptions. Whole nother topic is AI and the ethicality of using AI and sorting through resumes and job postings and things. But when it comes down to it, you want to make sure you're going after the right talent in the right places. And so having a very well-written job description, seeing that interviewing funnel of who is making it to a phone screening, who's making it to the second round, a third round, to final rounds, and even looking into the demographics of those backgrounds. Where are these people from? What race and ethnicity are they? What gender, sexual orientation, religion, all these different topics helps to create a more equitable practice in hiring, which is good for everyone, right? Everyone's got the same opportunity. Again, kind of bringing that objectivity to the space. Furthermore, though, it's driving these data practices in areas that weren't previously using data.
So if I apply online today, I see often a pretest, right? I have to take some exam of 15, 20, 30, 40 questions. Is that something that that is used in data analytics when it comes down to human capital? Or is it just another part of HR onboarding process or screening process?
That's a good question. I'd say it could be either, right? So some organizations will choose to design those specific assessments with data in mind. So it'll help them in two ways. One, it'll evaluate the candidate to see if they fit the qualifications of the job. And then two, you're constantly getting more and more data in the system, learning from it and understanding how different candidates, again, going back to demographics for a second, maybe from a demographic lens, how different categories of people are responding to those sorts of assessments, right? Maybe it's easier for a certain demographic group to do well in an assessment, but it's better for a different demographic group to do better in just a one-on-one interview. So again, it's kind of about creating some forms of feedback as well as equality in the space to make sure everyone's got the same opportunity to earn a job, to advance in their career, right? It's not just the lens of hiring, it's also internally. How are we looking at performance? How are we looking at the potential of our employees? And how does that factor into who actually gets promoted at the end of the day? Who makes it up the managerial ladder? Who maybe gets fired? Making sure that that has a rooting in data rather than just opinions really does go far for organizations from practical standpoints.
Okay. So interesting conversation around this point, but to bring it home, give me an example where you have a tangible utilization of this skill set in a business practice, and what was the outcome of that? So people have a better practical understanding on how you can apply this and how you can drive an outcome because of it.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I think specifically in the context of HR has become a very big reporting function. So people around the business, whether it's finance, whether it's marketing, whether it's sales, will come to the HR team and ask for certain reports, maybe on headcount, perhaps on budget. Obviously, that might be more of a finance thing, but looking at the way their teams are set up. So today, an action that someone in HR can take, if they're routinely pulling a roster for someone of data or a report, creating automation in that system to run it routinely, send it out to that person once a month. Beyond that, it's about actually getting into that data, right? So if you have a system that's only good for reporting and then it comes into an Excel file, it's important for HR administrators, for different HR analysts nowadays to have that dexterity to be able to go into that Excel file and pull meaning out of it, right?
Yep.
One thing to just pass an Excel file along. It's another thing to report back what's different about this Excel file than the one I sent you last month. So that's something I really try to champion as a people analytics professional, is that these skill sets, while they are intimidating for people who are longstanding HR practitioners, you can do it and you can become a data-minded person, and it doesn't take years of education. It doesn't take a ton of online classes. You just got to start meddling around with things, understanding basic math, and at the end of the day, always keeping the context of the business in mind. So whenever I open an Excel file or I start diving into the data, my head is always thinking about, what does this mean for the business? What does this mean for the employees? And when we have that mindset, for one, it's going to hopefully lead you to conclusions that'll benefit the organization most of the time, or at least give you information. But beyond that, it's going to make you a lot more interested. Obviously, you're going to have a level of security so that I'm not talking about Walter when I'm looking at this one data point. I'm thinking about an HR administrator. I'm thinking about a sales engineer. I'm thinking about people under general title, so it's anonymized. But again, having those insights allows you to go back to the business or the business leader and report really crucial information that's important for them to know about their team, about the way it's changing, and about what the future might look like.
Okay, very interesting. So I love the functional business partner, the HR business partner, which I think really crosses that gap between HR compliance and reporting and hiring, firing, to where the operations takes place. And I think that those folks who are going to be developed as that HR business partner, who actually live in the operations side and are connected to umbilical, they're the ones who can most benefit from having this ability to do human analytics, especially around business development of people, right? It is that there's this statistic not too long ago, what came out, I think in 2021, is that 95% of executive leaders believe and know and understand that development of people is the key to the success of the organization. Shame of it is only 5% of those take meaningful action. And so one thing I hope that with the analytical piece that they can start seeing through talent management, right, to really understanding. And I use a simple, basic box 9, but I'm sure that the analytics of can be certainly enhanced. But what is it that we do with those that we identify that have high potential, high performing, as well as those people who are struggling, who need to be managed up and managed out of the organization? How does this data piece come together? And how do you drive, true performance and development of people?
Excellent question and points there, Walter. Well, first and foremost, it's about identifying through that nine box methodology you mentioned, or whatever your methodology may be, who those high performers or high potential employees are. Understanding those different groupings of these employees and how they've performed over time, or based on a manager's input. I think this is a diamond in the rough, for example, someone who just needs to be worked on, and then they'll become a great leader. From there, it's almost similar to career planning, right? It's career trajectory. It's figuring out, where do you want to go with your career, and how can we develop you to be as strongly suited to serve the business as possible? Oh, and even beyond that, beyond just serving the business, to become the professional that you want to be. Right? Nowadays, people change jobs like they change clothes. And it's tough to say you'll be with this organization forever. But at least while they're at your organization, you can get the most out of them and develop them to be as strong as possible. Really great way to do this that's data motivated is using L&D platforms, learning and development platforms, right? So customized training modules, maybe your organization uses one of these L&D platforms, like what's it called? Like Coder Camp. The other one's escaping my thoughts right now.
That's okay.
But essentially, so that you give employees the opportunities to go explore new topics that they're curious about, upskill themselves, and provide more value to the business. So whether or not it's in a good light, meaning these are high performers that you want to further develop or bring into maybe a manager's workshop, or low performers that you need to put on a PIP, a performance improvement plan. It's about the data feedback that you're getting and being able to bucket these employees in different ways so that you can either develop them into great leaders or improve them to meet the standards that you're setting as an organization or as a team.
Very good. So if I'm a leader in an organization and this kind of all new to me, what is the one piece of advice you would give that person, or an action item that you could give that person to become more knowledgeable and use this skill set or develop this skill set for the future?
Yeah, I mean, with a lot of different topics, Walter, it's just be curious. That's first and foremost. Have an interest in it. Go read some articles. Go look at some of the big names in people analytics who are posting a ton, and I'll share those resources with you after, so you can post it to the crowd. I won't name any names specifically right here, but there are some prominent figures in people analytics who run people analytics focused organizations. There's companies like Visier, who's the global leader in people analytics, and One Model, who also has an amazing platform that brings systems together to understand these people insights. So that's really my best recommendation, is have curiosity and start learning more about the topic. And then it goes back to my earlier point, Walter, of this is specific to a lot of longstanding HR professionals. Don't be afraid to use data. I know it can be daunting. You'll mess things up at first, but it's like any new skill. You gotta crawl before you can walk, before you can run. So don't be afraid to get your hands a little messy in the data, and just try things out in your free time if you have it. Pull a report in Excel, mess around, throw some pivot tables together, run some numbers, and then tie it to the business context and see what that means. And then once you get good enough at it, then you can start to understand, what are our organizational goals? What are we working towards? And how can this data help us make the right decisions to achieve those goals?
Excellent. Yeah, I think that this curiosity is the key, right? It is that you be open-minded and think outside the box, which, by the way, is very difficult for the human brain to do, right? It is that we love to go back to the solutions we are familiar with, rather than looking for new solutions that get us actually to perform at a higher level. Thank you, William, for all that information. So where can we find you?
Yeah, I'm available on LinkedIn. We'll post my LinkedIn direct site to my profile below. Please connect if you're curious about people analytics, if you're curious about my organization, Evolution Cloud Services, and the work we're doing with different HR systems, different software integrations, all sorts of different advisory offerings that are coming about. Our website is developing and is at a place that we feel confident sharing it with the public. So I encourage you to visit that link that I'll also share with you, Walter. And yeah, please, my email's attached to my LinkedIn profile, so feel free to send me an email personally if you think your organization could benefit from this work, or if you think people analytics might be your career choice of the future. I do a lot of mentoring myself, Mr. Dutch Mentor, and specifically for students at my undergraduate university at Indiana University, right up there. And so I'm always talking HR, people analytics, because usually the students I'm paired with are pursuing that education currently. So I'd never want to force people analytics onto anyone, but it is such an exciting and growing area, and having data skills really are skills for the future. So I can't help but promote it and be excited about it.
Yeah, that's fantastic. You listen, as part of your responsibility as a leader is to pay it forward.
Yeah.
And I obviously I do it for a living, and I find great joy in it. But if, 25% of my time is spent volunteering with agencies and helping to mentor those who don't have access otherwise. And it gives me a fulfilled life, right? It's really, if I always say that out of our conversation today, if only one person can benefit, it's all worth it. But we know that we will have a greater impact than that. William, thank you very much for joining me today in the conversation. Certainly very interesting topics that should spike the curiosity of the audience, for them to go online and search a little bit more, maybe reach out to you for additional questions. And I look forward to having another conversation in the future. And I wish you much luck in the new startup. And let me know if I can help you out anyway.
Really appreciate it, Walter. Excellent conversation, thought-provoking topics. And yeah, I hope this reaches a great audience and a lot of people benefit from it.
Thank you very much. I will talk to you soon again.
Great. Bye.
Bye-bye.